Hi guys, it's Monique from earlylearningmom.com. I just thought I'd come on here and do a video about my experiences with breastfeeding. This is a topic that I've noticed a lot of vloggers on YouTube are kind of bringing up because it's, you know, it seems to separate us moms. We have, the breast is best, and then we have the formula moms, and then we have the kind of in between fed is best. And I don't I have no issues with parents picking what they want to do, what's best for their child. Some moms just don't feel comfortable breastfeeding, and that's okay. And some moms just don't feel comfortable giving their child formula, and that's okay too. And I kind of fell in both sides with my kids. With my oldest, I was a young mom. I had just turned 20, and I had a mother-in-law at the time who was the breastfeeding Nazi. And you have to breastfeed your child. You have to breastfeed. Breast is best. And I was still, as a 20-year-old, like a freshly turned 20-year-old, I still had like my teenage, what's the word, rebellion in me. And it was hard. It was hard to breastfeed a child. It was demanding. I had never even taken care of a baby before, let alone being a mom. And suddenly, on top of being a mom and being sleep deprived and learning all sorts of new things, suddenly I had to take on the pressure that I had to breastfeed. If I loved my baby, I had to breastfeed. And I kind of rebelled against that. It was hard. And later on I discovered, at the time I was dealing with postpartum depression. I didn't know it at the time, but now looking back, I definitely was struggling. And this was not helping. It was hard. So one day I just decided, I went to my doctor and he's like, you know what? Get some formula. So I breastfed my oldest for 3 weeks, and then he was a formula fed baby. And after that, I'm like, you know what? I'm not even going to try breastfeeding if I have another child. I'm going to just go straight to formula. This is just ridiculous. I don't want to do this. And it was a long time. My boys are almost 7 years apart. They're a month shy of being 7 years apart. And my mind had kind of changed over the time. I kind of softened to it. I realized, my oldest had allergies. He had a lot of health conditions. And a lot of people say that, if you can breastfeed, sometimes this helps alleviate these problems. So I decided I'd give it a try. And I set myself a timeline that I was going to do it for 3 months. And people say if you do it for 3 months, after 3 months, breastfeeding becomes easier for most people than bottle feeding. So I did it, and my goal was 3 months. I made it to 3 months. And then my goal was 6 months. I made it to 6 months. Then my goal was a year. I made it to a year. And I thought I was going to stop after that. Oh well, I ended up breastfeeding my son until he was almost 3 years old. And he self-weaned. I kind of realized one day, I was offering him before bed. He wasn't asking for it. And one night I forgot, and he went to bed. And I thought, well, maybe he's ready. So basically at that point, I just decided, I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to offer him tonight again and see if he goes to bed. And he fell asleep. And so that was just kind of the end of our breastfeeding relationship. And I would say it was good. We did have some hiccups. I mean, around 17 months, he went through a period of biting. He made me bleed. It was not fun. But, we relied so much on it at that point. It was the answer to everything. He got hurt, give him the boob. He was sick, give him the boob. He was hungry, give him the boob. He was tired, give him the boob. It answered everything. And so when I was talking to one of the public health nurses that had been at this baby, I used to go to this group, and it was for young moms with kids that were under 12 months. And the same woman was still at the center where I used to go weigh Z, because he was a small baby and I wanted to make sure he was getting, like, he was growing. So I'd weigh him regularly, and I brought him in when he was shortly after he turned 2, and she was praising me. She's like, it's awesome how amazing is it that you're still breastfeeding? That's like such a sacrifice. And I almost laughed at her, and I said, you know what, it's easier. First of all, I'm cheap and I don't want to buy the formula, and I'm worried about, he doesn't like milk. He won't drink cow's milk. So, and he won't drink soy milk. He won't drink coconut milk. So it's just easier for me. Like, and if he wakes up in the middle of the night, I just feed him and he goes back to bed. If, like I said, it was the answer to everything. I felt like I was going to give up my magic tool by giving it up. So as long as he wanted it, he was going to get it. And during that period, sorry, I'm kind of all over the place, but during that period of when he was 17 months and he was biting, it was a very difficult period. I had a lot of anxiety actually nursing him, and he could sense that. And we landed up, you know, he'd sense that and he'd bite me more. So what we landed up doing was, I had called I think it's LLL organization. It's a breastfeeding organization, and they have kind of coaches and stuff that can talk to you for free if you're having trouble breastfeeding. So I had called them, and they were like, wow, we're so glad that you're not giving up and you're looking for a solution. And they had suggested that we dream feed. And so essentially I would get him to sleep, and once he was sleeping, I'd go into his room and I'd take him and I'd breastfeed him. And when he'd take a nap, I'd wait till he was sleeping and I'd go in there and I'd breastfeed him. And my anxiety level was down. He was sleeping, so he wasn't going to bite me because he was sleeping. It was something comforting to him, and he was hungry, so he'd take it. So that really worked well for us, the dream feeding. It was a lifesaver. And then I built my confidence back up, and he stopped sensing me being stressed, and he stopped biting. And yeah, we worked out a few strategies. Another thing too, Dad couldn't be in the room at that point when I was nursing him, because as soon as he heard Dad, he'd bite me. And it was, I guess, 17 months, 16, 17, 18 months is about the time where they start really developing a bond with their dads or another person. Like, it's always been mommy, 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 but now suddenly they have more interest in building bonds with other people. So that was kind of my experience. I really enjoyed nursing. My oldest, I hated it. It was a nightmare. I remember being so shy about nursing that I wouldn't nurse in front of people. Even covered up, I wouldn't nurse. So, and he, of course, 1, 2, 3 weeks old, they're cluster feeding. I felt so isolated and alone. And we'd be at a family function and I'd be sitting in a bedroom nursing my kid by myself when all I wanted to do was be around people. And so it was a struggle, and I really feel, I guess for my sanity at the time, it was probably best to end that relationship, that breastfeeding relationship, and move to the bottle, because the support, I didn't know where to look for support. I didn't know other people that had breastfed. Like, the people that I did know had only breastfed for a week or two, so for me this was the norm. You did it for a little bit and good enough, right? And that's okay. That was fine, and I'm okay with that. That's part of, I think, being a young parent. And of course, not all. There's young parents that I know that breastfeed till their kid's 4, and that's okay too. And it's okay also if you only want to breastfeed for 6 months, or you only want to breastfeed for 12 months. It's your body. You're allowed to make that decision. So that's kind of I just wanted to share my story. I kind of had, like I said, 2 very different experiences, and it definitely helps getting yourself around people who breastfeed. I never went to any of the local breastfeeding kind of groups. I didn't feel that I needed to, but a lot of our mommy groups, it was okay. You just breastfed. And you covered up if you wanted to. You didn't cover up if you didn't want to. Whatever you feel comfortable with. If you don't feel comfortable breastfeeding and you wanted to exclusively pump, I say all the power to you. I have total respect for moms that cannot physically breastfeed, but they pump. That is a lot of work, and that deserves like a huge round of applause. I never was able to get comfortable with pumping. My little guy never took the bottle, so it didn't really matter at the end of the day, but all the power to you. And you know, and for the parents that have to choose, or that choose that formula is best for their child, good for you too, because now you're taking on the responsibility. It's not free. A formula is expensive. You're having to balance your budget to ensure that your child has proper nutrients. Good on you. Like, that is sacrifice. That's sacrifice in its own. They talk about breastfeeding being sacrifice, like a huge sacrifice, but so is formula feeding. Like, you know, if your child happens to have no sensitivities and you can use the Parent's Choice Walmart brand or something, you know, 14 bucks a can, that's still, like, you know, they go through a can in a week or two. That's $30, $45 a month. And I know some families that their child could only have those little teeny tiny cans of the special allergy brand formula. And those were $25 a can, and they'd go through 2 a week. So every feeding option has their struggles. Every feeding option has their bonuses. We don't have the right to belittle a mom because she's breastfeeding without a cover. We don't have the right to belittle a mom because she's breastfeeding covered or wants privacy. We don't have the right to belittle a parent because they choose to use formula for their child. We don't know their situation, and it's none of our business. So thanks for watching. I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions for me, leave them in the comment section below. Like, subscribe, and be sure to check out my blog, www.earlylearningmom.com. Thanks for watching.